Base. Okay. If he said, this cow said, I am a Nazir if I stand up, or this door said, I am a Nazir if I open. Beit Shammai says he is a Nazir. Beis Hillel said he is not a Nazir. And Rabbi Yehuda said, even what Beit Shammai said, they did not say except for one who says, this cow is for me a sacrifice if it stands up. If they poured a cup up for him, if they poured a cup for him and he said, I am a Nazir from it, he is a Nazir. It once happened that a certain woman who was inebriated, that they poured a cup for her and she said, I am a Nazir from it. This comment said she did not intend other than to say, it's for me like a sacrifice. If one says I'm a Nazir on condition that I be permitted to drink wine or contract tumor from the dead, he is a Nazir and is prohibited in all of them. If he says, I know that there is Naziris, but I did not know that on the Nazir is forbidden wine, he is forbidden. But Rabbi Shimon permits him. I know that a Nazir is forbidden wine, but I thought that the Chachamim would permit it for me since I cannot live without wine. Or since I bury the dead, he is permitted, but Reb Shimon forbids him. Okay.
Okay. Hareini Nazir v'alai legalech Nazir. Okay, so when we use the expression, it's I'm going to shave a Nazir. Okay, that doesn't mean that he's going to take the razor and
right.
shave the Nazir. What he's talking about is he's going to donate the offerings that the Nazir has to bring on the completion of his term. Okay, so that's called shaving a Nazir. So that's what we have to have in mind every time that the Mishnah talks about shaving a Nazir, means donating the korbanos that the Nazir is going to bring.
Okay.
So one guy says, so Reuben says, Hareini Nazir. He says, first of all, I'm a Nazir, v'alai legalech Nazir, and I'm also going to donate the offerings of another Nazir. So Shimon, his friend, hears him and says, that's a great gesture. I want to do the same. I'll also be a Nazir, and I'll also donate the offerings of a Nazir. And comes the time of their term, and they're thinking, it's actually quite expensive bringing all these korbanos. And they look at each other and say, well, you're a Nazir, I'm a Nazir, I'll give your offerings, you give my offerings. Works. They can do that. That's totally legitimate. They're bringing the korbanos for each other. But if they don't do that, then they have to shave other Nazirim, because you can't say Legalech Nazir is replying to himself. It's got to be somebody else. Okay. Hare alai legalech chatzi Nazir. Now, if he uses the expression, I'm going to shave half a Nazir, and V'amar ani vani alai legalech chatzi Nazir, and his friend also says, yeah, I'm going to shave half a Nazir. So then, can they put the two chatzi Nazirs together and say, okay, so together they'll bring one Nazir's korbanos? Ze megalech Nazir shalem, v'ze megalech Nazir shalem, divi Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir says, no, you can't do half a Nazir. You're doing a Nazir, or you're not doing a Nazir. Once you're saying that you're going to do half a Nazir, it's the whole thing. Now the thing is that the Mishnah, the lashon over here is not so mediyak, because actually there are two ways. There are two ways of expressing this. There's hare alai legalech. I'm taking the responsibility to the galech. Hare alai kol korbanos, right? Which is like hare alai legalech. It means that I'm taking on the responsibility of bringing all the korbanos of a Nazir. And if somebody says chatzi Nazir, if he says hare alai legalech and then he says chatzi Nazir, it's like he's taking back his words, and he can't take back. He can't take it back because it doesn't make sense to do half a Nazir. He's got to do the whole thing. However, so this is according to Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say no. So each one of the two can bring half of the korbanos of a Nazir, because it's like a neder or pitzchol imos. In other words, if he's saying it all, if he's saying it all in one statement, then we take that meaning that he is he's saying hare alai machatzis tiglachto shel Nazir. It's like he's saying, I am taking on the responsibility of half of the tiglachat of a Nazir, and that's like it's like he's saying chatzi korbanos Nazir alai. I'm taking on half of the korbanos of a Nazir. So again, there are two ways. Let me just say the two ways of expressing it. If the noder says Chatzi korbanos nazir alai, half of the korbanos are on me, that's fine. That's totally legitimate. It makes 100% sense because he's bringing half of it. But if he says korbanos chatzi nazir alai, the korbanos of half of a nazir, there's no such thing as a half of a nazir. You're either a nazir or you're not a nazir. So it all depends on the subtleties of the lashon over here. So I think everyone here agrees that if somebody says korbanos chatzi nazir alai, everyone agrees that you're chayav in the full korbanos. The only argument is if he expresses it in harei alai legalech, and then comes chatzi nazir. So Rabbi Mary says no, you can't recant it. You've said harei alai legalech, and that's it. And now chatzi nazir doesn't help you. Whereas the Chachamim say no, his words taken as a whole make sense, that he's taking on half of the korbanos of a nazir.
Okay.
Yeah. Mishna Zayin, Hareini Nazir liben. I'll be a Nazir when I have a son. Nolad lo ben, and Taka son is born, Mazel Tov, Hareze Nazir. So he immediately becomes a Nazir on the day his son is born. Nolad lo bas, tumtum, the androgynous. If he has a daughter or a tumtum or an androgynous, ain't a Nazir. He's not then his condition did not kick in at all. So even though the tumtum is a suffix male, suffix female, nonetheless it doesn't kick in his condition. It's got to be a vadai that he is it's a male for his naziris to kick in. If he says that he will be a nazir when he sees that he has a child, okay, but then so if it just says the general category of child, obviously, then it is then even if it's a tumtum or an androgynous, he now becomes a nazir.
Because he didn't specify. He just said if I have a child. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a fairly simple intro. There are going to be a few more interesting cases in this parak.
Okay.
All right. Chazara Nadarim Yud Ches.
I'm sorry, I had to let the cat out. That sounded big. Okay, here you go. Okay, Yud Ches. Revocation of the Dharm is valid the entire day. This fact can be lenient or stringent. How? If she made a neder on the night of Sabbath, he can revoke it during the night of the Sabbath or on the Sabbath day before nightfall. If she vowed just before dark, he must revoke it before nightfall. For if it became dark and he had not revoked it, he can no longer revoke it. There are nedarim they can revoke. Those that involve self-denial. If I bathe or I do not bathe. If I adorn myself or I do not adorn myself. Rabbi Yossi says these are not the nedarim of self-denial. These are the nedarim of self-denial. If she said, Konam, the fruits of the world to me, he may revoke it. Konam, the fruits of this country, he can bring a fruit from another country. Konam, the fruits of the storekeeper to me, he cannot revoke it. But if it was his only source for provisions, he can revoke it. And these are the words of Reb Yossi.
Sivos.
If a widow says, I do not wish to move from my husband's house, the heirs cannot say to her, go to your father's house and we will support you. Rather, they must support her in her husband's house, and they give her residence according to her honor. If she says, I do not wish to move from my father's house, the heirs may say to her, if you are with us, you will have sustenance. But if you are not with us, you will have no sustenance. If she claims that it is because she is young and they are young, they must support her while she is in her father's house. As long as she is in her father's house, she can collect a ketubah forever. As long as she is in her husband's house, she can collect a ketubah until the end of 25 years. For in 25 years, she has the opportunity to do favors corresponding to the amount of her ketubah. These are the words of Reb Meir, which stated in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The sages, however, say as long as she is in her husband's house, she may collect a ketubah forever. As long as she is in her father's house, she may collect ketubah until the end of 25 years. If she states her heirs may claim her ketubah until the end of 25 years, right, if she dies, her heirs can claim her ketubah until the end of 25 years. Okay, one more. The judges of the decrees were in Yerushalayim, Adban and Kanan ben Avishalom. Kanan said 2 things. Adban said 7. If someone went overseas and his wife demanded sustenance, Kanan said she must swear at the end, but she may not swear at the beginning. The sons of the Kohanim Gedolim differed with him, and said she must swear both at the beginning and the end. Reb Dosa ben Harkin is concerned with their review, and Reb Hokinan ben Zakkai Kanan said, well, she need not swear except at the end. Lower cotton. Okay, Aleph Dalet. We may trap moles and mice in an orchard or in a grain field in the usual manner during Kol HaMoed and during Shemitah. The Chachamim, however, say in an orchard we may trap in the usual manner, but in a grain field we may do so only in an unusual manner. We may block up a breach during Kol HaMoed, but during Shemitah we may build it up in the usual manner. Rameir says we may examine the Gayim for the first time in order to render a lenient verdict, but not to render a stringent one. And the Chachamim say we may not examine a nega whether for a lenient or a stringent verdict. Rabbi Meir says also a person may gather his father's and mother's bones for burial, as it is a source of joy for him. Rabbi Yossi says it is a source of mourning for him, and a person may not inspire lamentations for his dead relative nor eulogize him during the 30-day preceding festival. We may not use burial niches nor build tombs during Kol HaMoed, but we may adapt burial niches during Kol HaMoed, dig wash ponds during Kol HaMoed, and construct a coffin in the courtyard with the deceased. The Yehuda prohibits the latter unless the boards are at hand. That's it. I don't know. Gathering the bones of your relatives doesn't seem to.
Yeah, it's not in our our experience.
It is a mitzvah. If a mitzvah enters the synagogue or a partition,
we're in Orla.
Oh, I went ahead. Okay, all right. Put it over here. Orla, Aleph. If one plants for a fence or for beams, it is exempt from Orla. Rabbi Yossi says even if he said the inner side for food and the outer side as a fence, the inner side is liable and the outer is exempt. When our forefathers entered the land and found planted, it was exempt. If they planted all that they had not conquered, it is liable. If one plants for the public, it is liable. And Rabbi Yehuda exempts. If one plants in the public domain, or if a non-Jew planted, or if a robber planted, or if he planted one on a ship or grew it himself, is liable to Orla. If a tree was uprooted together with the rock, or if a river swept it away together with the rock, if he could live, he is exempt. If not, he is liable. If the rock was torn away from its side and the plow shook it, he shook it and made it like earth, if he could live, it is exempt. If not, he is liable. Okay. And the guy. Okay, Yud Gimel Yud Aleph. If a Masorah, right?
Yud Gimel Yud Beis.
Sorry. If a Masorah enters a synagogue, a partition is made for him 10 tefachim high for an area 4 cubits wide. He enters first and leaves last. Anything that requires a fastened cover to curtail tumah to the tent of a corpse, in the tent of a corpse requires a fastened cover to curtail tumah in an afflicted house. And anything that requires only a covering to curtail tumah in the tent of a corpse requires only a covering to curtail tumah in an afflicted house. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Yossi says anything that requires a fastened cover to curtail tumah in the tent of a corpse requires only a covering to curtail tumah in an afflicted house. And anything that requires only a covering to curtail tumah in the tent of a corpse is tahor in an afflicted house, even if he uncovered. How do we make a matzorah tahor? He brings a new earthenware pitcher, places it in a quarter of a log of living water, and brings 2 wild birds. The Kohen slaughter one of them over the earthenware and vessel onto the living waters, digs a hole and buries the bird in front of the matzorah. He takes cedar wood, ezov, and redwood and binds them together with the end of the wood. Then the Kohen brings the tips of the wings to the tips and the tips of the tail to the wooden bird. Near the cedar wood, ezov, and redwood, dips and sprinkles them 7 times on the back of the matzorah's hand. Some say, or on his forehead. If so, too, would the Kohen sprinkle on the outside of the lintel of an afflicted house. And then he then comes to send away the living bird. He does not turn his face to the sea, nor to the city, nor to the desert, as stated, and he shall send the living bird out of the city toward its field. He then comes to shave the Metzorah. The Kohen passes the razor over the Metzorah's entire body, and the Metzorah then washes his clothes and immerses. The Metzorah no longer causes tumah by entering, but he will cause tumah like sharets. He is permitted to enter within the wall, but he's banned from the house for 7 days, and he's permitted from marital relations. On the that was it.
And horarios.
Okay, Aleph Hey. If the court ruled and all the people, or most of them, acted on their word, they bring a bull, and for idolatry they bring a bull and a goat. These are the words of Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says 12 tribes bring 12 bulls, and for idolatry they bring 12 bulls and 12 goats. Reb Shimon says 13 bulls, and for idolatry 13 bulls and 13 goats, and a bull and a goat for each tribe, and a bull and a goat for each court. If the court ruled and seven tribes acted, or most of them on their word, they bring a bull and for idolatry, and they bring a bull and goat. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says 7 tribes that sinned bring 7 bulls, and the rest of the tribes that did not sin bring a bull because of them. Even those who did not sin bring because of those who sinned. And Reb Shimon says 8 bulls for idolatry, 8 bulls and 8 goats, a bull, a goat for each tribe, and a bull and a goat for the court. If the court of one of the tribes ruled, and this tribe acted on their word together, on their word, their tribe is liable, but the rest of the tribes are exempt. These are the words of Reb Yehuda. But the Kachamim say they are not liable because, except for the ruling of the high court, as it is said, if the whole assembly of Israel errs, not the assembly of that tribe.
Right. So basically, the Chachamim come in and dismiss this entire debate about this tribe did this majority of tribes not. The only thing that it applies to is the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. That's it, not the local tribal courts. Okay.
If the anointed Kohen ruled permissively for himself, if he ruled inadvertently or he acted inadvertently, he brings a bull. But if he ruled advertently and acted willfully, or if he is a rebel willfully and acted inadvertently, he is exempt. Because the ruling of the anointed Kohen for himself is like the ruling of the court for the community. If he ruled independently and acted independently, he is stoned for independence. He's held independently. But if he ruled with the community and acted with the community, he is stoned for the community.
You're saying stoned, and the word is atoned.
He should be stoned also. So
yeah, it's kind of an opposite meaning. So maybe go to the beginning and
I'll go back. If he ruled independently and acted independently, he is atoned for independently. If he ruled with community and acted with the community, he is atoned for with the community. If the court is not liable unless he rules to abolish part and to retain part, and so too the anointed Kohen, and neither are they liable with regard to idolatry, unless they rule to abolish part and retain part.
That's it.
They're not. That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Have a wonderful day yourself.
Thank you. You will. Bye.
Okay. Cheers.
There it is.